In the remote western plains of the country, where traditions ran deeper than blood and ancestral whispers echoed through the hills, Marceline stood among the grieving crowd, her black wrapper tightly bound around her waist. She had traveled from the city with her husband and 3 children to attend her late uncle's funeral, a man she barely knew in life, yet whose death would change her world forever. The ceremonies lasted 3 long days. Drums throbbed into the night, chants filled the air, and the scent of incense curled into the winds. Elders, their faces weathered by time and secrets, led the family through ancient customs. Marceline watched quietly, respectful but distant, clinging to her children as the crowd mourned a man she remembered only faintly from childhood visits. On the final day, as the last heap of earth was thrown over her uncle's grave, an elder approached her with solemn eyes. He held a rope in his calloused hands, and at the end of it, a young brown goat blinked up at her. "This is for you," the elder said in a voice that sent a chill through her bones. "A final gift from your uncle. He said it must go to you." Marceline frowned. "To me? Why?" "He chose you," the elder insisted. "Take it. You cannot refuse." Everyone was watching. In her culture, to reject such a gift at a funeral was to insult the dead and invite misfortune. So she nodded slowly, reached for the rope, and accepted the goat. She took it home with her, tying it securely to a stake behind their modest city house. Her children laughed at its antics, and even her husband made a few jokes. It seemed harmless enough, just a goat. But within days, laughter turned to screams. It began with her son, Ovi. The boy was only 8, full of energy and mischief, but he suddenly grew quiet, pale. He screamed in the night, eyes wild with fear. "Mummy," he sobbed one evening, "the goat. It talks. It calls my name and tells me to come outside." Marceline's heart stopped. She tried to dismiss it. A bad dream, she told herself. Children have vivid imaginations. But then her eldest daughter, Amara, came to her with tearful eyes. "Mummy, I dreamt I stabbed the goat," she whispered, trembling, "and it turned into a man, an old man with red eyes." That night, Marceline's husband woke drenched in sweat. He rarely spoke of dreams, but this time his voice shook. "I saw him," he said, "your uncle, sitting in our living room. His legs were crossed. He looked alive." Marceline couldn't sleep after that. She lay in bed, eyes wide open, listening to the distant bleating of the goat behind the house. Something wasn't right. Something had followed them home, and the worst, she feared, was still to come. By the time a second week rolled in, Marceline's house in Bodihia Estate had turned from a cheerful home into a place of unease. The air inside grew heavy, so much so that even neighbors noticed Marceline looked worn out, with dark circles under her eyes and her children unusually quiet. The goat remained tied behind the house, close to the kitchen window, but Marceline began to avoid that part of the compound. There was something in the way the animal stared, too still, too knowing. It never blinked. Even when Ovi threw pebbles at it or the wind rattled the aluminum roofing above, the goat's eyes remained fixed, wide, and deep like old wells. "Mummy," Ovi said one afternoon, holding her wrapper tightly. "He said he's cold." "Who said he's cold?" Marceline asked, pausing her soup preparation. "The goat." She dropped her spoon immediately. Her hands trembled as she clutched her chest. "Ovi, don't say that again. It's just a goat." "No, Mommy, he talks to me. He said, 'Tell your mother I'm still watching.'" Chills ran down her spine. Marceline had grown up belly knowing his uncle because she never cared for the old man. She has been a Christian believing in faith, in prayers, and in hard work. But in that moment, all her modern-day logic began to fade. Something was undeniably wrong. The following night, it got worse. Around 2 a.m., Akin screamed from their bedroom. Marceline rushed in from the children's room where she had been praying, only to find her husband standing in the center of the room, drenched in sweat, eyes darting wildly. "He was sitting there," Akin shouted, pointing at the brown leather chair in the corner. "Your uncle, wearing the same white agbada he was buried in." He smiled at me, said, "She accepted my gift. Now let's see what she does with it." Marceline began sobbing. The next morning she knew she couldn't pretend anymore. She dressed in a simple iro and buba and called Mama Ronke, an elderly neighbor from Oyo town, known for her strong spiritual insight. Mama Ronke came in less than an hour, wearing a white wrapper and head tie. As she entered the compound, her eyes settled instantly on the goat. "Ha!" she exclaimed. "Who brought this animal into your home? There's fire underneath its skin." Marceline's legs gave way and she dropped to her knees. "I didn't know, Ma. It was a gift after the funeral." Mama Ronke closed her eyes for a moment and shook her head. "This is not an ordinary goat. Your uncle's spirit is tied to it. This thing was sent to you, not to bless, but to bind. The goat is possessed with the spirit of your late uncle. All the strange things happening in your home is because your late uncle is angry with you. He's so angry that you never cared about him while he was alive, after all he did for you when you were still a little child. Your mother got pregnant after being raped by a gang of men, and while giving birth to you, she died in the process. And he, your late uncle, took care of from the day you were born. He later took you to one of his old-time friend in the city for you to live with them and experience a city life, but from that day, till you got married in the city, you never cared for him upon all his suffering and sacrifices he made to make sure you survived. That is why he asked the elders to give you the goat if you ever come to his burial." Marceline broke down in tears. "I never knew he made all this sacrifice for me. The man I lived with in the city convinced me that he is my real father. I never knew all this until now." Without waiting to be asked, she entered the house, prayed in tongues, sprinkled holy water, and anointed every doorway. The air shifted slightly, but the tension remained thick. Later that evening, as instructed, Marceline tied the goat loosely with a long rope behind the compound wall, far from the house. Mama Ronke gave a stern warning. "Don't look it in the eyes again. Don't feed it. And no one must untie it until after the cleansing." By morning, it was silent, and the goat, it was dead, tied exactly where they had left it, its neck twisted in an unnatural way, its eyes wide open, still refusing to blink, even in death. The morning after the goat was found dead behind the compound, silence fell over the Adeyemi household like a burial cloth. No one spoke of it. No one dared to. But everyone, especially Marceline, understood that something beyond their grasp had been awakened. By mid-afternoon, Mama Ronke returned with 3 elderly men from the neighborhood, custodians of Yoruba tradition and knowledge. Their faces bore the deep folds of time, and their eyes, though old, glinted with sharp discernment. One of them, Baba Alani, carried a raffia basket filled with traditional items, a white kola nut, a bottle of palm oil, alligator pepper, and a piece of white cloth. "You must go back to his grave," Baba Alani said in a voice as rough as gravel. "You must apologize. The dead are not deaf, but they are proud. You accepted his final gift, yet you never honored his life." Marceline trembled. She had never thought of her late uncle as someone deserving of honor. She had heard vague stories, how he never married, how he farmed the land in solitude, how some said he was spiritually gifted but misunderstood. She never made the effort to know more. Now, haunted dreams, a talking goat, and visions of the dead had forced her to confront her negligence. Just before sundown, Marceline dressed in a plain white iro and buba. The elders led her out quietly. They carried the raffia basket and moved in solemn silence as they walked down the narrow road that led to the town's outskirts, where her uncle was buried beside the small, crumbling family shrine. When they arrived, the grave looked undisturbed, but the air around it was heavy with a strange stillness. The surrounding trees barely swayed, and even the birds seemed to have abandoned the place. Baba Alani motioned for silence, then laid out the items before the grave. Mama Ronke knelt beside Marceline and whispered, "Speak from your heart." Marceline bowed low, her head to the earth. Her voice cracked as she began. "Baba Ami, I didn't know. I didn't understand your sacrifices. I never came to visit, never asked about you. They told me you were strange, and I believed them. But now I see you gave me your final gift, and I carried it blindly without knowing the weight it held." Tears poured down her face as she reached for the white kola nut and broke it, placing the pieces gently on the grave. "I'm sorry. Please forgive me." Baba Alani sprinkled palm oil in a circle around the mound of earth. The other elders chanted softly in Yoruba, calling the spirit of the departed to listen, to understand, to release his anger. Suddenly, a gust of wind tore through the trees, rustling the leaves and lifting the corner of the white cloth laid on the ground. The chanting stopped. "He has heard," one elder whispered. Mama Ronke gave Marceline a firm nod. "You have begun the journey, but you must be watchful. The spirit world does not easily forget." As they walked back toward the road under the deepening twilight, Marceline felt something shift within her. The heaviness in her chest didn't vanish completely, but for the first time in days, she could breathe without fear.